Nice countdown.
That was the fastest countdown we've ever had. I think we're live. What's up, guys? Are we live, Tony? Is that a thing?
Doing your confirmation. Okay.
We're just making sure that he wasn't fibbing us with a 3, 2, 1 that was extremely fast. So we've got a extra special guest here just for a brief moment, he tells us, because he would like to say hi to you guys.
Yeah. Hello, you guys. As you know, I'm Kevin with Springfield Leather, and you've seen Liz and Clayton a lot, as well as Denny and some others. I got thinking about the other day. Excuse me.
I think he's going to die just real fast here.
I am. You know, Springfield Leather started out, 20-some years ago and whatever. I never thought in my wildest dream that I would ever see the day when we were making actual moving picture things. Videos like this, like you can watch on television. This just kills me.
Like in a good way?
Yeah, in a good way.
Okay.
It's just hard to believe that we can share what we have and what we know with so many people. We're actually helping people, and that's a really good thing.
Yeah.
So I want to say something about that, because these guys here, they just started doing this. They didn't have a lot of experience, and Tony running the cameras and everybody else that's involved. We just bought a camera and started taking pictures. And if you want to see some of the results of that, look at some of the really, really old videos on our website, and that'll show you how far we've come. So the reason I'm saying that is every now and then we'll get a comment, or I'll notice it, that says, hey, why don't you change the blankety blank cameras so that we can actually see what you're doing? Or why don't you get your hands out of the way? Or somebody says, that was a great 10 minutes of watching somebody's hand that I couldn't see what was going on. I really appreciate some constructive criticism because it helps us to get better. But please, if you're going to do those things, and say it nice. I would really appreciate that.
He does watch all of our videos after we shoot them. And he will reply to comments too if you guys have questions or inquiries.
And some of the times, I even answer them once in a while.
Yeah.
Sometimes you may have heard the expression, that's a cranky old coot. Well, I'm learning that I'm getting to be a cranky old coot. So we have the choice here of either doing this or not doing it. And if somebody out there, if some of these folks that watch, they're not as considerate as what they might be with their choice of words or appropriate use of words, my choice is to either do this or not do it. I would much rather do it. I really think we have a lot of fun, and I think all our customers benefit too. Mm-hmm. So I'm done.
All right.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it.
This is neat. If you guys have never seen this, actually, I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think Springfield Leather developed this technique about 10, 15 years ago of ragging the edges of certain leathers. Mm-hmm. Certain leathers work really well. Certain leathers don't work really well. And then airbrushing them for a really cool look. And these guys are going to fill you in.
Yeah.
Because they're full of stuff that fills people in.
Yeah, I guess so. A funny way of putting it.
Bye.
Bye,
Take
Kevin.
it. All right. So on to today's topic.
Yeah.
I just stay out of the comment section. And I don't know, I just don't read them.
Yeah.
But thanks for being nice, guys.
We appreciate everybody. So today it's pretty specific what we've got going on here, but we are using tobacco lamb, and then doing some airbrushing techniques to kind of give it a rustic, fun look. And then we've also done some stenciling. We've done some pre-recorded sections as far as the airbrushing goes, just because it's not really conducive to setting it up in this room with all of our highly expensive fancy cameras. So we did that yesterday, and we've done all of these things here. So eventually Tony will be watching some of that footage and just kind of talking along with it. But we'll just kind of start off with what do we got here, Clayton?
All right, so yeah, we got a full skin, the big piece here, full tobacco lambskin that we've airbrushed the edges on, and we just use chocolate dye. We use Phoebing's chocolate pro dye, I think. on all of it. And
How's the taste?
how does it taste?
But we try not to eat it.
Oh, not that kind of chocolate.
Not that kind of chocolate.
Just
no.
the color chocolate.
Yeah, that makes it pretty though. It gives the edges a nice dark antique look. And then so we go through, give it a sunburst effect, do a stencil on it, and you got a nice throw to go over your recliner.
Yeah. So the tobacco lamb is an interesting leather, and really this technique, especially because you're using dye. If you're using paint, you could do it with other things, but I don't know. Have you tried to stencil with paint?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, so that you can use that with finished products, or not? Yeah, so with a leather that has a finish on it. Excuse me. But with the dye, you have to have an unfinished leather, so either a natural veg or something that is just a nude, naked finish. So the tobacco lamb that we carry is one such leather that does not have a finish on the grain, so that the dye will soak in whenever you airbrush it.
Yeah, you need it to penetrate well.
So this is just a natural skin that has nothing happened to it. So I just brought this in for you guys to see. The reason that we like the tobacco lamb, just specifically for this style of product, is because it already has really cool edges.
Mm-hmm.
So we get these untrimmed from the tannery, and they're really neat, like just, you know, little flanky sections hanging off. But overall, the skins just have a really fun natural edge, which allows you to do cool things like a journal cover where you keep that raw edge on the side that's going to flap over your journal. And then you have a really neat, this one we haven't tied yet, but then you can use that raw edge just as an accent point on your project.
Yeah,
So,
and they're a really good size too. They're great for like we do doing throws here. You know, even cutting small projects like journal covers. We've done a lot of pillows out of these, placemats. We've got a couple doilies.
we did do some doilies today.
I know. Liz wanted to do some doilies. Anyway, so yeah, what do you want to do first?
Well, so we'll just talk about the stenciling. You have that, Tony?
I do have the stenciling video separate, so if you guys want to come over, I'll slide over the way and I can switch to this microphone over here so you can see the videos. I can't really put them up on the screen.
Can't really do it.
Okay.
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
Well, so I'll just show you. So we use our Glow Forge, or just one of our mini lasers, because we've got a ton here. And we had our creative department cut out these stencils for it. So these are just some images that we found online that would make a cool vector image. And we had them cut it out using Bontex. So this is just that Bontex bag stiffener that we sell. So you could use, if you've got a Glow Forge at home, you can use the Bontex. It makes a really good stencil. And the reason that you want to use a paper product instead of a plastic is because whenever you go to do the airbrushing, you don't want it to pool up. And plastic doesn't absorb anything. So Clayton has had the experience of using plastic before. You'll lay your stencil down here, you'll start to airbrush, and it just wants to run and puddle, and you don't get these really nice crisp lines that you get with using a paper product that will absorb the dye.
Exactly. Yeah, you end up with a bunch of little dots around the edges where the dye gathers on the edge of the plastic.
Yeah. So using a Bontex or a heavy cardboard or something that you can cut out, and obviously you could hand cut something as well. I guess if you had a Cricut with
Cricut, we've done cardstock or like the manila folder type paper. I mean,
so anything that's absorbent, you can cut a stencil out, and then you can use it with your airbrush. So Tony, you want to run that? I don't know, how long is that video? Just the lasering?
It starts at the beginning and then it finishes at the end.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
is there audio to this?
Nope, no audio to it. So we're just kind of cruising along with the Glow Forge. This is the Pro one that we have over there, and it has a pass-through that you can open up and slide some bigger stuff in it. So you made these in Illustrator, correct? The designs that we had, did we make it in Illustrator?
Yep, the vector files are made in Illustrator, and then the Glowforge does a pretty good job about just vector cutting really quickly.
And that was super extra quick because Tony sped it up.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, so that was it?
That was it for that one.
Yeah, so that's just cutting the stencil out. And so that's what we used. So we did this fun kind of bird on some
Tree with birds.
tree with birds. That thing. So this is one of the journal covers, and then we just kind of airbrushed a little burst here on the edge to give it a little bit of dimension. Let's see here.
Grab some of the other ones we did.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can do all kinds of cool designs. Obviously, the sky's the limit. You do get kind of run into some issues whenever you try to get too intricate, or like we tried to do this awesome bear stencil.
Which
And
we did do.
We made it happen. Yeah. But the first couple that we did, the interior was not attached to the exterior, right?
Yeah.
And so all of the little pieces just kind of fell out of it. So sometimes you have to alter the file a bit if you find it online to make sure that the interior stays attached.
Overhead. Yeah. So he came out pretty cool, but we had to connect like the shin here. We took out a line so that it stayed, and then up in the neck area, we took out a line there so that all of your inside pieces, and this one's probably getting to about the end of its life. I think we used them 3 times yesterday. And I don't know if you'd take much more, because the way that you want to use these is you have to use a light spray adhesive, and then stick them down to the leather. Because if you, especially with something so big and intricate, if you were just to lay it on and then you start airbrushing, you have a lot of air pressure coming out of that airbrush, and it wants to billow and pucker the stencil as it goes. And so what you do is you're going to take, and this will be in the video, you're going to take your stencil and you're going to use some of this awesome 3M Super 77 spray adhesive, and super lightly. You just want to
Just missed it. Yeah.
just mist the back of this, not a lot, just enough to where you can get some adhesion. And especially you don't want any of those bubbles showing up, like the little bubble spots, because that's going to stay on your leather.
Let it dry, let it get tacky for a minute or two, and then stick it down.
Yeah. So this one is just so cool. I was so excited the way that the bear turned out. And you just stick it down, you lay it, you make sure all that is adhered to the leather, and then you can start airbrushing. Let's see here. How do you get the bond text to lie flat? Again, I pulled it out of the tube a few days ago, but it's still all curly.
Okay, so laying it out flat with some weights on it works just like you would with like a book or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of times I'll roll it in reverse and just kind of try and retrain it to where it lays flat.
I might suggest that if you have ordered bond text, just to open it right away. Don't let it sit in the package for any longer than necessary, and get it laid out on your work surface. Just put it there before you go to bed with some weights on, and it should be pretty flat. But a lot of times you're cutting it into smaller panels as well. So I just keep mine kind of rolled in a loose tube. I'll cut the size section that I need out of it, and then that section lays flat enough for me to work with.
Yeah.
When I start working with it.
All right. So, Diana asks, do you prefer this over laser etching directly onto the leather? And I would say yes, but it depends on what leather you're wanting to get your image onto. Some finished leathers, it's going to be really difficult to get a good stencil onto, or very textured leathers. Something with like a heavy pebble grain, it's going to be really hard to get a stencil to lay flush against the leather and actually get a good airbrushing. Stuff like that's going to be better done with the laser.
Yeah.
The nice thing about airbrushing is you can do any color that you want.
Exactly. With laser aid, you really just, whatever the leather turns out is what you're going to have. So we just did the chocolate brown here, but you can, use whatever color. So you kind of have the option to do a variety of things. Plus, like, I think we've tried to laser this before, and it just shrinks up on itself really bad.
Yeah, a lot of really thin, delicate leathers like that, once you start lasering it and burning the surface of it, it'll start to curl.
Yeah. So it depends on what you're working with.
Did you get a pattern last week?
I don't think that I did. Did I? I don't think so.
Uh-oh.
Razor blades. We'll have to try
a Viking sandals pattern he sent. We'll keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, he sent it to me. I'll have to...
Okay. Yes, we did. Abigail's got it. It's just been a crazy week so far. So speaking of the doily, that's the outside of the bear. So this was, we had one with an inside where the circle was cut out of it. And then this one we actually just used for the horses yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And so this guy came out pretty darn neat. So this one, we just laid it across, however those horses were. And then we just lightly airbrushed the edge here and kind of got that burst for the middle. and then you had that, and then we took the airbrush and we went around the outside. And so this is one of the ones that Kevin was talking about doing the ragging on. So when we cut this circle out, I think it's a 16-inch circle, I just die cut it. I've got a die that's 16 inches, and so the edges were, you know, flush. They weren't very exciting.
Perfect circle.
Yeah, just a perfect circle. And so what we did is we took it to a sander and you sand down the back of the edges here. And then you just sand it off. So I think we've got a little bit left on one of these.
Correct.
that we can show you how to do that, but it's super messy. So we mostly did it all ahead of time.
Right. We're just going to fill the room with dust.
Yeah. So we'll do that here real fast. You guys can check it out. Just watching us rag the edge on this really quickly. What? Okay.
All right. So like she said, where are we at? There we go. I already did most of the edges on this one. I just left a little section here that I'll show you how I do this. I've got a scrap piece of what we sell as poundo board. It's just like a 1/4 inch thick rubber. So that you can back your piece of leather with that.
Can you move that stuff out of the way in the front of it before you get rolling?
All right. This is usually pretty easy with a heavy grit sandpaper, so it takes off material pretty quick. A lot of times I'm just using the edge of the sander to actually cut into the edges and kind of imitate a natural or live edge. And so that's basically all it is. And you can do more of a ragged edge if you want to, depending on the look you're going for. This is just snowing powdered lamb in here.
Yeah.
This is not a good idea. Anyhow, but you get the idea. It makes a really cool edge. I've also done them to where I've actually ragged the front or the top grain of the lamb. Mm-hmm. And then go back and airbrush the edges because it makes it real light in color, and then you can darken them up and it gives a nice contrast.
Can we test it off?
Yeah. We're just going to breathe some of that for a while. Sorry, Tony.
No, I talked about getting a vacuum in here and just.
I think we also said something about that before we came in here. Yeah.
But here we are.
So fun little doilies. And then we also brought this lamp in that Denny made forever ago, also out of tobacco lamb, just because it's fun. You got this cute little shade. So yeah, leather doily for all of your rustic decor needs. It's perfect. Or you could put a rock there, as Kevin would probably do in his home.
Rock.
Just a rock.
Nice rock.
Yeah, just
What my kids would do.
just some nice rock. I feel like they would put a chicken right there.
Sure. No chickens in the house.
All right. So I think maybe we'll share some of the actual airbrushing
Yeah. Well,
with you now, and then we're going to assemble some of these journals that we've got, and then show you how to finish it.
yep.
All right, come on back.
All right. We started with the doily, I guess, huh?
That's what it looks like.
What's the durability of the airbrushing?
On the template?
On the leather once it gets there, since it's a dye.
So since it's a dye, it's actually penetrating the surface of the leather, so it is going to be pretty durable. It's not going to really rub off. It might fade with light exposure over time, just like anything would. But it's in there.
How do you clean your air gun? I know we don't show it here, but
We don't, and we were talking about that earlier. I think that's going to be like a separate video, really,
Yeah,
taking care of the airbrush.
Talking about actually airbrushing.
because this is just one technique of doing the airbrushing.
Oh,
We're going
yeah.
to speed up again.
Yeah. So cleaning the airbrush, we'll usually have a separate bottle with a siphon lid on it to run some acetone or like denatured alcohol through it to clean it out at the end of every session.
Yeah. Is it on for you?
There's a bit of an echo. You got.
Well, it's going through my headphones so that I can monitor the sound as well. Jeff Allen asked, "What would you spray a sealer on this after the airbrush?"
Yeah, so we'll show you. We kind of go through it. What we've done with these in the past is just we'll let the dye dry thoroughly and then hit it with Bic 4 and a horsehair brush. It's not really much of a sealer, but honestly, it doesn't bleed off much after that.
And it kind of leaves that rustic look where if you spray a finish on it, it's going to give it more of a shiny,
It's going to get kind of glossy.
glossy finish to it. But depending on what you're doing, that might work well for you.
It
So
really helps preserve the soft texture of the lambskin too. If you put an acrylic finish or something similar over it, it's going to change the feel.
hmm
And so in our paint room over here, we had the door open. We had a fan blowing out the door. We also have a collection system, and then wearing respirators is a great idea.
Yeah.
Keep yourself protected. That's small particles that are blowing around.
Yeah, so taking the stencil off there, you can see we had sprayed the back of it with the Super 77, and it's really important to do a light misting and let it cure for a few minutes. That way, whenever you stick it down, it holds the stencil down, but it doesn't transfer any glue onto the surface of the leather. One other tip here, whenever you're airbrushing these things, is whenever you first start the airbrush, always start off the project, come onto the project, or onto the leather where you're going to be airbrushing. A lot of times when these airbrushes first start spraying, they'll splatter a little bit. And then be mindful of holding the entire bottle of dye over the project. So a lot of times it'll drip.
yeah. And then just be mindful of overflow. So like we want the dye in that center section that's open, but you'll see on some of the journal covers that we do that we've covered up all of the leather that we do not want touched by the dye with another piece of Bontex, or if you've got some spare leather sitting around, just make sure that, because this airbrush is going to mist everything that's not covered.
Yeah, there's a lot of overspray, especially if you're working with a dark dye on a light colored leather. You'll get overspray very easily.
And then just like we're talking about this burst, you can like adjust your level of color that you want. So on those horses, we made them really, really dark. And then we just kind of went over that edge where the edge is really dark, and then it lightens up towards the center. And I think here's us misting the bear.
That fancy camera work.
I know we haven't used the gimbal in a while. We don't have to use it in here when we set everything up on tripods.
Oh, look at that fade. Oh, that was nice. That was a nice transition. We were all feeling creative yesterday.
You'd asked me if I'd done any artwork, so I guess the answer is yes.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, this one was pretty delicate. There's a lot of little intricate parts on the inside, and so you want to make sure and get all those stuck down. If like she said, if you don't use an adhesive, a lot of those small parts will start to blow up off the surface of the leather, and you won't get those clean lines. Yeah, that was a cool bear stencil, though. He did kind of have a derpy paw, though.
He did a little bit. It was the cooler of the ones that I found online.
Yeah. So you see I'm spraying back and forth like this, and I'm overspraying past the stencil, right? And that way, if you stop on the stencil and turn back the other direction, you'll get a heavier load of dye right there in that spot. Does that make sense?
I think
I don't
so.
know if I said that right.
That's really close up.
Well, we're pulling off the stencil.
Yeah, you gotta be careful not to rip your stencil on a lot of those interior parts.
Little glue
Yep,
got
and that
left
little glue
over.
bubble there.
Yeah, that Bontex does a really good job at absorbing the dye around the edges and not letting it pool up on the leather.
So we're using Super 77 to stick this down
Mm.
to the leather. Spray the back of it, and then let it dry, and then tack it on there.
Yep.
And now Clayton's just going around that edge and giving it that sunburst look.
Making it look like a dirty old piece of leather.
They switched guns, or they switched hands. Clayton passed it off to Liz.
Yeah, I didn't know. Realized I was doing all the work there for a second.
Right?
Is it this one, the leather boot?
Mm-hmm.
Can you use a leather boot spray? So Alan's asking if you can use a polyurethane wood spray.
I guess that's to seal the leather.
I don't know if I would You could probably use a leather boot spray that's a waterproofing spray. That might be fine.
Well, we're back on the main screen now. I don't know if you guys wanted to talk about anything else. I have the other airbrushing where we did the covers. So I don't know.
Some of that.
Yep, I have that video as well. Do you want to show off what the projects that we just did there, the
Yeah.
horse things again, just one more time?
We can finish this big one.
Okay.
So. All right.
So you saw the large throw that we just did with the bear on it. And so one other thing, whenever you're airbrushing the edges like this, you know, if you're wanting to do an antiqued edge and you want that overspray to kind of fade into the project, that's whenever you're going to want to spray from this angle. So you'll want to be spraying towards the main body of leather. But if you're looking for more of a thinner, dark line, then you're going to want to be spraying off the edge of the leather. Does that make sense? So that way you get if you want your overspray to kind of blend in, fade, yeah, that's up to be conscious about.
That's a great shot.
Ooh. That's
What
interesting.
happened? Is that leather dust?
Leather dusted.
All right, so you want to go ahead and finish this one?
Yeah, yep. So we'll show you guys how we finish. So this is just from the airbrush. We did it yesterday afternoon, and then we haven't done anything else to this hide. So we're gonna take.
Could you grab us a bigger bottle of Big 4?
No, that was the biggest one I could find.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. A lot of Big 4.
That was what I found in the spray or the little laser area.
All right. So I'll usually use this pretty liberally.
Good old just Big 4. We have a gallon of it here, but you know we sell it in different size containers. And a horsehair brush.
Yep. So we're just going to spread this around. The horsehair brush allows you to kind of just brush the whole skin out. It helps it lay flat. So we're going to use quite a bit of it.
Yeah, see?
Yes, that was right. You did good, Liz. You did
Does
good.
Big 4 change the color of your leather?
I have Big 4 all of these panels, and they pretty much came back to their natural state after it dried.
Pretty close, yeah.
So,
I think it does state on the bottle that it's not supposed to be.
correct.
Not supposed to darken it much. I feel like on the lambskin it does bring out, I mean, it helps blend the dye color a little bit, in my opinion, and then it helps bring out some of just the natural features. Some might say defects, but I would say natural features. Like this gets a little bit darker right here.
Where he's got that skin issue.
Yeah.
Maybe he had a little bit of a rash.
Yeah, the lamb psoriasis or something, I don't know. All right, so just conditioning it really well, making sure it's all brushed out to the edges. Typically, I would do this whole thing flat and let it dry. I'm going to pull it back a little bit, though, so I can reach it.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah, that's not a good angle.
I forgot I moved that camera. Always gonna move again.
If you did want to use something, Clayton, to maybe protect it a little bit more, to put more of a finish on it, could you spray bag coat?
Bag coat wouldn't be bad.
Okay.
Honestly, something like carnauba cream would probably work really well
Okay.
because it's going to help condition the leather and give it a wax.
Could you apply that just like you're doing now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And tell you the truth, I don't know why I haven't used carnauba cream and tried that on this particular product. I haven't made these in a while, I guess. So
Maybe I should go grab some.
maybe so.
We could carnauba some of this. I'm gonna go do this.
Yep, okay. Yeah, it's fine. Just leave me here.
You got this.
Ready for some dead air?
Talk if it needs to happen.
Probably. I really only feed off other people's energy. Right. If it's just me, I get all dry and technical.
So when you do that, does it rub off any other dye, or the dye is already in there and you can't really?
The dye penetrates pretty well. Like she said, this tobacco lamb has a very naked finish, so the dye penetrates. It doesn't really rub off very much. We use Phoebing's Pro dye. You can also just use the regular Phoebing's leather dye. Works well. I imagine just about any brand would. But no, there's not a lot of rub off or crocking from it. All right, yeah, we'll try some carnauba cream on another one. Let's back out. Well, you found that one quick.
Yeah, I went straight to the spray booth. It's where we keep all the chemicals. What I'm learning. It's nice to keep everything together right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is one of the stencils we tried that was failed.
Yeah, so this was actually the center of the horse's
Yeah.
overhead, Tony.
There you go. So as you can see, if you try to get too intricate, it just becomes too delicate, and you might be able to pull it off once, but after that, as soon as you start to peel it up, it's not gonna.
Yeah, I think actually we did it. So we did, Clayton and I, like you said, it had been a while since we'd done any these style products. So this used to be something we keep on retail quite a bit, so we'd always have a decent amount of it, and we did try to do that stencil here. And there was some of it that came out, but once again, just the areas were so small that it was really faded.
It was difficult to get all the little intricate areas to stick down to the leather and create clean lines.
Yeah. But, so this was the fun panel that we did.
All right, this is the collage we started to make.
It was a good time. So this was the bear with no innards, which is how he came out the first time. And then I adjusted him. I made his teeth better. Did you see that? His teeth were a little crazy up there. Yeah, they look like I don't know.
Quite so vicious.
Yeah. But all right. You wanna? I don't think we finished those doilies yet.
Do the doily.
We could attempt to carnauba cream those.
So where are these going in your house?
I don't have this kind of a house, so these will go to retail. Do you want me to apply
You
it
don't
to
live
fit it in?
in a cabin in the woods?
No, I'm a little more Art Deco, little that kind of situation. I don't know how much of this to use. We'll see.
Yeah. One would be fine. So yeah, carnauba cream I think would work well. Like I said, it's got
Weird.
wax content, so it's probably going to make it a little bit glossier because that wax is going to buff. But it also penetrates and helps it lay flat. And it smells good. It smells way better than Big 4.
I said maybe use a thicker vinyl for intricate parts.
You could. You just got to find the right one, something that's not going to be too sticky to where it's going to leave either adhesive residue behind or it's just going to tear apart as soon as you pull it up.
Yeah. Well, and also with the vinyl, would that be absorbent enough?
Well, and I would also make sure that it goes on to your leather and then it peels off and doesn't leave a area or a residue.
Yeah.
Or take up some of the finish or top grain, yeah.
Yeah. So I would play with that before you just go directly to project. But
Yeah, a lot of times if we're doing like single-use stencils, even just using a masking tape on the Glowforge, or like a wide painter's tape, to tape over the leather, laser it, and then we'll go back and we'll airbrush within the lasered portions.
Yeah.
We've done that before if we're trying to get a darker logo or design.
Is that the never mind. Read the part number on that carnauba cream.
34-261203. It sits on top a lot.
And then I also have it
Yeah,
in
quite a
4
bit.
ounce. You have the what size is yours?
What?
You have the 32 ounce.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit longer to penetrate maybe.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, there is going to be a waxy layer that kind of stays on top that can be buffed out.
Yeah. When you could I suppose you could take the whole thing, like if you did have a horsehair burnishing unit,
Yeah, brush unit.
you can burnish everything. But if you don't have one of those, then you can just use the horsehair. This is a much cheaper investment than that.
Beautiful. So yeah, that's going to help it lay flat, seal it up, should protect it. Like I said, normally once I do this, I would let these sit until they were dry, right? And that way they stay flat. But
We're going to move
we're
on.
doing a video, so we're going to move them out of the way.
All right. So then lastly, we have all these super fun journal covers that we made. And then these we're just going to use on the journal inserts that we sell. And we're just going to glue them down. So this is our craft journal refilled. Just a 5x7. It is 347-1001. And we're going to use good old contact cement and glue it down. Let's see. So this one is already done. This was the bear that we airbrushed yesterday. We found some fun bone beads just over in our bead department, but you don't have to necessarily use a bead. You could just cut a hole in it if you wanted and then loop it through. Lowe's.
I was looking at the Super 77 spray. We don't actually sell it. We buy it from
Lowe's.
Yeah.
Or Home Depot or wherever you want to get your spray. So and then we just glue it straight down. So this is a really awesome, easy thing. If you have a little shop, the stencils are super cheap. You can make a ton of different stencils. You could do custom ones if you wanted, but this is a really fun thing that people love getting gifts for people, just these cute little journals for people that still physically write things down and not just put it in their phone.
That's true. These do pretty well
So,
on our retail floor.
yeah.
A lot of people like them.
And they're so easy to make. Literally glue a button of some sort and a piece of lace. So we're just gonna make up a couple of these. You guys think about your questions. Ask us questions about airbrushing.
We have some questions. I was waiting till we got to this part.
Okay.
So some of the questions are doing two-tone color. Would you do the dark color first and then the light color on top? And you did that feather one where you got a two-tone effect and you didn't change colors at all.
Right. So this is one where I just did some darker. I just put more dye here. I went over and over and over it until I was happy. This one I just did one light misting of dye. And then this one was kind of a mid-range feather. Clayton did this yesterday, which is really pretty cool. So him and Tony had a lot of fun with our insert to our circle. So the interior part that didn't come out well yielded like a scalloped edged circle, which I have somewhere around here.
You probably lost it.
It was just right here. That's right here. Yeah. So one circle, and he just took this and just kept pivoting it inwards and created this really cool black hole.
Yeah.
Tunnel.
Yeah, it looks
Tunnel.
kind of like a 3D tunnel.
Yeah.
If you did this on a large piece, you could pivot it all the way around, and you get a really neat effect. We'll have to try it sometime.
Yeah. We'll do that.
All right, so gluing these journals. This tobacco lambskin is really dry. You're gluing it to a paperback journal. So using a contact cement, it's going to stick it down pretty permanently, right? They're not going to separate. As long as you do a good job gluing. You do want to be cautious whenever you're applying glue to the journal. Obviously, always use brush strokes going off the edge. Don't ever try to brush onto the edge of it because you'll end up loading up your pages with glue.
Yeah, that's not good.
Definitely done that before.
Don't do that. And then for us, we typically only glue half of it at a time. The way you'll line up kind of like the front half and maybe the spine. And then you put glue on the rest of it. That way you're not trying to...
Yep. So yeah, I'm going to I just apply glue to the front of mine and I'm going to apply it to the spine. And then once we stick it down, we'll glue the back.
like Andy realized, so because these have a flap that come around to the front on them, that there is a specific way that you have to put them on. So we do have one upside down journal because he put the flap on the front, like on the front side instead of the back that folds around and up. So just make sure that you watch out for that when you're gluing things up. Andy's still really new, so I can harass him.
All right, who's Andy?
Who's Andy? What's that? I hope he's watching it now.
It doesn't even matter if you're new, you're just going to harass them anyway.
That is true.
I mean, because we were over there and Clayton was doing the airbrushing and you were harassing him most of the time.
That's what I do.
Because it wasn't perfect. Perfect being how you thought it should be done.
Is there any other way to do it?
You
Oh, did you have more questions, Tony?
know. Not currently. I've kind of answered some of them. This video is live. A little fear. We have the question again. Chat kind of answered it of how to rough up the edges.
Oh, okay.
And what leather it was. So tobacco lamb is the leather that we were using, unfinished.
Yeah, it's unfinished, so it does accept dye. As far as roughing up the edges, we used our little sander or finisher, bench top finisher that we have over here. And so we'll hit it with the sanding wheel right on the corner of the wheel, and that way it kind of rags and tears the edge a little bit. You can do it from the back of the skin and just kind of get that natural edge look. Or I've also done it from the front of the skin and then went back and airbrushed it afterwards, which ends up looking pretty cool.
And you have something stiff behind it.
Yeah. Yep, using our
Use a piece of poundo,
board. Yeah,
the
Or a
rubber.
piece of wood. Could you use a piece of wood?
sure. Piece of wood works.
Just not your fingers, probably.
Yeah, try not to use your fingers.
Because you have to have something else to sand onto as well. Because you want to hit the edge.
Exactly.
So yeah.
All right.
Hey, we have a hairdryer in here these days.
Getting pretty tacky. All right, so I'll go ahead and try and stick mine down.
Ross has a question from Facebook. Could you sew a liner in there to allow people to replace the journal instead of gluing it to the skin?
Yeah, you certainly could. For sure. Then how are you going to sell more journal covers, right? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, for sure. And that's just a different style that we've done in the past is sew a couple of liner pockets in there that way you can just slip the covers into it.
I use a little bit more leather, and it helps. This journal might be okay, but the front and the back flap is just a pretty light cardboard. And so for the weight of the journal, sometimes those want to pull apart if you've got like a heavy user on it. But yeah.
All right, you can see I've got my front and my spine stuck down. And so I haven't applied any adhesive to the back of the journal yet. I've got a little bit over here. I'm going to go ahead and lay this down and mark a line where I know to stop gluing.
Good call. I'm going to do that too. Thanks.
And so typically when I lay my lambskin down, I will line up the front edge, my front cover right here, and then either the top or the bottom edge. And then I can go back and I can trim off the excess if I want it to be perfectly flush. Or you can just lay it right in the center and have a little bit of overlap.
Yeah, I just took my straight edge to my lambskin, and I just started, measuring the 5 or 6 inches tall or whatever. I guess maybe 7. It's a 7 by 5. And then I would just cut off the edge. So I would cut a straight line across. I would straight edge the bottom of my lambskin, and then measured 7 inches up from there. Cut another straight line across, and then I just basically cut it in half, and I just allowed whatever overlap was going to overlap the front. I guess if you had a really big skin, you could take off the center, depending on how much of a flap that you wanted with that natural edge. Good.
Paper. Ahead of myself here. All right, I'll get these stuck down, trim them up, and see about a closure. I'm kind of stretching it tight. I'm lining up my top edge. I don't have to trim that one, keeping it flush. And then stick it all down.
Yeah, this lambskin is quite stretchy. So once you've got it glued on there, if you're like really pulling, you're going to do weird things. So you kind of might have to shrink it a little bit as you go. But
Yep. So yeah, my top edge is all nice and flush. I'm gonna go ahead and trim my bottom edge a little bit. And see if I've got a straight edge. Scissors.
I did take your scissors.
Thank you.
I sure did.
So I do have the video where we did some of the airbrushing of these. Watch those.
Yeah.
Keep going, keep going what you're doing, and I will just turn it on.
You got it?
Got it.
Look at that.
Interesting looking. Hey, closure for this guy.
I did leave the mic on too, so.
Oh, did you? Is there anything that we need to narrate?
No, I mean you haven't got to this when you're painting
Oh, okay.
painting the bear on.
It's dye, but yeah.
Whatever. You're painting with dye. Yeah, in case we don't have Denny in here to do burns, but Clayton is present. Do you need the salt shaker on my desk?
Salt me up.
It's the big one.
Yeah, so I didn't know if this was going to work out or not, but laying that stencil over the fold or the flap on that journal. And that way when it's closed up, you can see the bear.
So you can see Liz is doing that feather, but she's also... Oh, there's a bug that tried to get in there.
Oh, that.
It's dyed. It's a different color now. Not painted.
So yeah, this is one of the examples where Liz, she used some scrap pieces of Bontex to cover up the edges. That way we prevent any overspray from marking the leather.
And W. Bradburn would like to know what kind of pressure you were using.
So, no, we haven't. Like I said, I think that's almost an entirely separate video in itself. But we use Pash airbrushes, and we sell a compressor made for these airbrushes. So you don't have
a new line of airbrush coming.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. There's a little.
And we have a guy flying out from California that's going to do a video with us on more uses for an airbrush, and as he put it, demystification.
Okay.
What about your scissors?
Open up the Pandora's box of airbrushing. What you find?
Wait, it smells good in here,
It
guys.
smells like carnauba cream.
Yeah. And don't worry, we're not doing any airbrushing in here right now.
Yeah.
What was I saying?
We were talking about the
the
airbrushing.
feather.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you don't have to really worry about pressure regulation on a compressor. If you just buy this little airbrush compressor, it puts out a steady flow of air. Right here, I'm just doing some antiquing, giving it some background color.
How was that? Smooth, wasn't it? Was that smooth enough?
You are so smooth, Rusty. Thank you.
No paychecks today for Clayton and Liz.
They weren't at their desk.
No paychecks today.
Actually working for it today. Come on, man.
Hey, those are sharp. Somebody do those for you?
Yeah. Yeah, we just had Andy do it.
Nice.
Taking credit for it. He did help us finish a couple of them, though. We're going to have to get him in here before too long. You guys got some skills.
Cool.
Yeah. Doing some good old throws. It's been a while since we made some. What bead am I using for this, Liz?
I mean, we have 2 options left, so, or you could just do the Andy version with no bead.
You have to tell me whenever the airbrush video is done.
Are you still watching it?
We're still watching it. Yeah, we're painting on feathers.
Okay.
Oh, sky.
We've got our pre-recorded video.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Playing. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm not ducking under the camera.
No,
Nope,
you're good.
Do you find it better to spray down or to have the piece standing up and spray at it? Spraying like this or spraying like this?
Okay. So it depends on what material you're using, and it is nice to have like an easel style, right? So that it stands up and you don't have to worry about the dye dripping onto your project. That's one of the big downfalls of actually spraying downward at a table. Depending on the project you're doing though, if you don't want marks from having clips, or if you don't have a good way to fasten your leather onto it, or if it won't stay on your easel, then laying it flat is your option.
Yeah.
You just have to be a little bit more careful. Also, you can definitely get some different angles if you're trying to use your overspray to fade the colors. It's a little bit easier to do that laying flat.
Yeah, that Pache airbrush compressor that we use is actually out of stock at the moment.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That's awkward. Sorry, guys. It's pretty handy though. So
I'd give you the link, but it would just say on order. But it's 135 retail and 125 wholesale.
But you could use, I mean, we used to have our airbrush setup just connected to our air system.
yeah,
Didn't we?
and like I said, you have to have a pressure regulator.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more of a hassle. I really like the little airbrush compressors just because you don't have to worry about it. Flip it on, it runs whenever you're actually
Well, and I guess
airbrushing.
when we do the dye, that one maybe we've always had connected to the small airbrush compressor. But then we had our large siphon style finishes
Yeah.
connected to the
Like HVLP guns.
yeah, we had those connected to our main hose that just runs through our shop. So there's that.
I put the airbrush that you guys were using. I put that link in it, all the chats. If you
Okay.
go on the website and you just search for airbrush, the blue compressor will pop up.
Nice.
And I believe it is a fixed pressure. It only shoots a certain amount, and then you adjust it on the gun.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it doesn't really take much for those little airbrushes.
Did we talk about the guns? That there's 2.
We have not talked about the airbrushes yet.
Okay. So there is a double action and a single action option when it comes to the airbrushes. I don't really think that there's a huge price difference between the 2, but
A lot of it's been preference in my experience.
yeah. So the single action, you adjust the amount of spray with a little nozzle at the tip. You have to manually turn it to adjust how much it is letting out. But for like things like this, that one was perfectly fine. So it really wasn't too big of a deal. We did use the double action a little bit, which you push down on the little controller and then pull back
Right.
for more or less spray.
Yep.
Yeah. So that one takes a little bit more finesse to like,
Takes some practice to get used to.
Yeah.
Because you've got that variable of the further you pull back, the more material you'll let out.
but it's really like a quarter of an inch of like
Right.
finger movement. So it's a little delicate.
There's a little more fine tuning to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that would be great in another video in itself, is just teaching how to use the airbrushes, the differences between them.
So we'll plan
and
that.
The setup. Yeah, sure. We'll plan that. That
We're
sounds
gonna
good.
plan that.
We'll have to happen
Coming
in November
soon.
since we have everything planned.
It's true. You did try to plan everything for the next 2 months.
I did. I was semi-successful, but there might be some moving around. In any case, so you've got journal covers with just a bone bead on it. So you unlash it, comes around, and you just got your nice little cover. So easy, fun project to do. Like I said, it's a really great customization option. That actually came out really well, just centered on the back.
Yeah.
So lots of fun. Just all those templates. Literally, these are just images that we found just online. I told Holly, I was like, hey, I'm just looking for some fun options to make some journal covers for, just some fun templates. You just want to make sure it's just not a ton of detail because that's going to start to get really complex as you're airbrushing, but just a nice amount. So, anything else, Clayton, that we haven't gone over yet?
Not really. Like I said, I don't want to get too deep into the actual airbrushes. That's going to be a whole nother topic that I'd like to get prepared for and have all the products here to show you guys.
Yeah. We did buy some food dye coloring, so hopefully maybe we can come in here and actually use an airbrush and not kill ourselves with some overspray. We'll try it out, see how that works.
Yeah, that would be
Some
ideal.
water.
Yeah. Trying to shoot a video by a spray booth though is not really good for audio.
It's not happy
Yeah.
over there. It's loud. The airbrush is loud. Everything is just loud. All right.
I got
We go down, just for people that have kind of joined in, how making the templates, getting the templates to the leather, and then spray
yeah, so
and
the
finish.
kind of the overall process again.
Yeah.
All right.
One last
So
time.
yeah, making the templates, like you said, we found a lot of artwork online. That's perfect vector art. If you've got a laser engraver, it's really nice to be able to just buy something like cardstock. We use the product called Bontex that we sell as bag stiffener. It's a paper-based product that's only about 1/16 of an inch thick, but it's nice and stiff. It's sturdy for intricate pieces. And so once you get your template cut out, you want to use a paper product that'll absorb the dye around the edges. You'll take some spray adhesive. We use this 3M Super 77. You pick that up at Lowe's or your local hardware store. Lightly mist the back of it.
Very lightly.
Very lightly. You don't want a whole bunch of excess adhesive on there. Let that cure for a minute and tack up. And then stick that down and make sure all of your intricate parts are stuck all the way around on your leather. Then you go through with your airbrush and hit it, right?
And have some fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. We had a great time.
Yeah, for sure.
It's
We ended up spending an hour or two just trying to get all these done and doing our collage piece, practicing, and
Yeah.
it is.
So I don't know. With Cocapelli, he just went around and he did some. Tony. Anyways,
Hit the overhead.
so we did some like inverse images up here on the corner where we put it down and then sprayed over it so that you have, there it is. So your image is non-airbrushed and everything around is airbrushed. And then he just did these fun little, and then the other side is the opposite where we covered it all up. So there's a lot of fun things that you can do and play with.
On the journals, we use a natural edge, but on the doilies,
Yeah, so the doilies were a hard cut edge, just a die cut edge, and then we took it to the sander and we ragged the back of it, sanding it off. That does smell really good.
Yeah. And so after you're done airbrushing, you get your stencil peeled off carefully. Then we'll just finish it with Bic 4 and a horsehair brush.
You want to make sure that it's dried for a little while before you do that?
Yeah. Usually I'll let the dye cure for at least a couple hours. Make sure it's all dry and you're not going to end up just smearing it everywhere.
Yeah.
we had a request for the light to be turned on. The lamp.
Does it work?
I mean,
Oh, it is on.
it's on, but you can't really tell that it's on.
Look at that.
Yeah, a leather lampshade doesn't really let any light through.
It's a good shade.
It's an
It's
ambiance
doing its job.
shade.
This is a daytime lamp. Just looks nice.
Serves no purpose to light anything.
We have some really cool ride ones that Denny's done. Those
will
let
glow.
some light. Yeah,
Yeah.
those let some light through. Those are nice. I mean, it looks really cool, but it doesn't let a lot of light through.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, the tobacco lamb is just a really fun product. We had some problems getting it for a while. The tannery that we used to buy it from, like, they no longer made it. So we've done some searching here the last couple of years, and we finally got a new vendor, and we just got our first shipment in. The edges are really awesome, just on your natural skin. Like, there's just a lot of texture going on with them. They look really cool. It's not terribly expensive. I think it's like $5 a foot or something, and then they're probably 5 to 8 square feet, so a good decent size for a nice throw, or just, you know, making several journals. I think I cut up one skin and I got 7 journal covers out of it, out of one skin, plus a circle. So got quite a bit of project out of that.
That's pretty cost effective stuff too. It's really not too bad.
Yeah, it's
Remember
pretty
what
good.
the price is on it?
I think it's like $5 a foot, something like that, like
Yeah.
$4.99 or something. So yeah, so fun skins to play with. Neat looking rustic decor. Yeah. All right. So I think that's it.
That's what I got.
Okay.
All right, I'm checking questions
Checking
right now.
comments.
Looking to see if I
Did
can.
we miss anything?
I said make a pillow out of the doily things as well. Suggestion.
Yeah. The tobacco lamp is a great pillow. We just didn't want to actually do any making in here. We did some gluing.
Yeah, we need to get some pillow forms.
Let's see. I'm scanning. I don't see anything at the moment.
Fair enough. So it just means we did a good job covering everything.
Twice.
I think
I
so.
think.
I think we did cover it twice.
I think we did. All right, guys. Well, Denny and I will be back on Friday going over skiving techniques. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yep.
I
So-
think that's right.
Yep. So Denny and I will just be going over different skiving techniques, different tools that you can use to get that job done. And then tomorrow, Tony and I will be here to sell you some fun stuff. And we're pretty excited about it. So join us at 2 on Facebook Live for some live shopping. And we'll see you later.
Sweet.
Have a good one.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.